My name is Freyja Sewell, and I'm a designer who is fascinated in creating for our minds and for our mental spaces. This is a piece of mine called the Hush Chair that first came out about 7 years ago, and I was initially inspired by creating privacy for our densely populated urban environments. And since its creation, I've become more and more obsessed, not with just creating privacy, but with actually facilitating retreat. Not only are we densely populated, but we are hyper-connected. Even though there is so much benefit from sharing and streaming, if we don't have time to think about what we're sharing, I think that's a problem. So I believe we need to be proactively creating spaces for solitude, reflection, and maybe even meditation. I recently returned from 2 years living and working in Tokyo as a Daiwa scholar. And I took that as an opportunity to kind of forge a solo path away from my past influences and investigate something which had been on my peripheries for a while, which was meditation. I set myself the very enjoyable task of experimenting and trying as many different types as I could. So I tried Gongyo, Zen, tea ceremony, and for example, the one that stuck with me, in my case, was mindfulness meditation. And at the end of the 2 years, a combination of the research I was reading about how much benefits it could bring to other people, and my own personal experience of the focus and joy it was bringing into my life, I decided that I wanted to help other people make the same journey. And that was a decision that I took into my master's at the Royal College of Art. We currently live in a world where many of us can send and receive information instantaneously. We can travel the globe. We have automated, dangerous, boring processes so that we don't have to do them anymore. We can explore far-off galaxies and fantasy worlds, and we can see and talk to our loved ones day or night. However, despite these huge technological advances and countless incremental improvements to make our lives more comfortable and convenient and more connected, subjective well-being in the West has not increased since the 1950s. I think this is a really staggering piece of information that makes me look at everything we've been coming up with and kind of question it. We've come up with a lot of stuff in the last 50 years, but people aren't feeling any better. And I absolutely believe that they could and that they should. Depression is set to become the largest global disease burden, ahead of such things as heart disease and diabetes by 2030. And there's a growing body of evidence, of which many of us are increasingly aware, that not only is the new technology not making us feel better, it's actually beginning to make us feel worse. High levels of stress and anxiety have been seen in 8 to 18-year-olds who use social media. And high MMI users, that's people who spend more time on their phones and computers, are shown to have reduced grey matter in the anterior cingulate cortex. That's a part of the brain, of course, associated with many functions, including decision-making. And I think really scarily, if we kind of follow this through, ethics. But it's okay, it's all right. I know it's really kind of makes you want to panic, and it sometimes feels overwhelming and scary, but this same technology has driven a much deeper understanding of what's happening in our brain. And this project is about using this information to actually deal with the issue. We now understand much better how the tens of thousands of synaptic connections form an ever-changing web that is malleable and plastic and changes throughout our lifetime, depending on what we choose to do with it. Technology is just a tool, and whether it's a sword or a smartphone, I believe that rather than passively allowing it to isolate us in echo chambers and shorten our attention span, we should be proactively using it to create the kind of shaped minds that's going to result in the shape of future that we want to see. So here's a slide where I sometimes rattle off a bunch of statistics about how great meditation is. And it's great. Also, interestingly enough, it seems to be a lot of the issues that are being caused by our sort of technology consumption, things like addiction and not being able to sleep at night, are exactly the ones that can be helped with meditation. However, I kind of feel like everyone's getting the picture. Like, we all know meditation's good, we've heard a lot about it, we want to do it, but somehow we're not finding time for it and we're not putting it into our lives in the way we would like to. And there is a very complicated, extremely secret reason for that I am now going to reveal to you. Meditation is tricky. That's the reveal, that's it. That's like the whole reveal. For some reason, people don't really realize that it's a skill like any other, and it takes time to get good at it. And when you first start out, you're sitting there, okay, cool, I'm going to meditate now, and I'm thinking about breakfast. Okay, no, I don't want to think about that. I'm going to meditate. It's going to be really zen. It's going to be great. And I'm actually more stressed than I was when I started, and people maybe sometimes don't try again. But there's lots of things that are difficult that still have incredible value. When we learn to play the piano, or when we learn to maybe wire up a circuit, it takes a lot of time, but we can actually see what we're aiming for. And when you can see what you're aiming for, it gets a lot easier. And also, when you meditate correctly, it really feels good. And when it feels good, it's something you want to do again. Fortunately for this project, I was able to work with exactly the man who's going to help us bring some clarity into the meditation education arena. This is Judson Brewer and his amazing team at UMMS. They have developed a medical training device to help people understand what's happening in their brain during meditation. And here's a picture of me in a funny hat. So I went out to Boston and I tried the system. And you wear this thing as you meditate, and the computer crunches a bunch of signals coming from your brain and feeds it back to you. And it forms a training device. And it was an incredible experience. And I don't think I've ever felt so intimately connected to a computer. So basically, I am taking this system and redesigning it. And here is the Mind Mirror. So the Mind Mirror is a system of two core components. Firstly, you have the neural lace. The neural lace houses 32 sensors across the back of the cranium that monitor activity in the post-singular cortex. This is the part of the brain that Judson and his team have found to be very important during a positive meditative state known to many people as flow state. So it takes this information, sends it to a computer does the crunching, sends it back to you in a biofeedback. This is the visual biofeedback. There's also an audio one for those who prefer meditating with their eyes closed. So for this part of the project, I worked with an amazing 3D artist known as Martin Salfati. And we were really inspired by the idea of expansion and contraction, kind of moving forward into like a consciousness expansion. I purposely stayed away from charts and graphs and numbers because I didn't want to make yet another kind of addictive piece of technology. I like to think of this as a soft data feedback that's more of a friendly guide. And Judson and his team have found that this system, the laboratory system, helps people to understand, improve their meditative practice. I designed this for I hope, not too distant future, where this kind of cognitive meditative training has become a ubiquitous part of the physical and mental well-being process. And this is one of two projects on a platform that I'm creating called the Metacognition Revolution. And I'd love to tell you more about the mechanics of them. The other one is called Sangha, which means community in Buddhism, and is about teaching young people the positive social aspects of meditation. And it also uses live data from the brain. And I'd just like to finish by saying that I feel incredibly lucky to be working at a time when such powerful new tools are becoming available to designers. For a long time, we've been guessing and asking and hoping and trying to make things that will make people feel better. But now, if we ethically use things like big data and work with incredible neuroscientists like Judson Brewer, we have an opportunity to create technology that will really make people feel better every day, and to help sculpt an empathetic, optimistic, science non-fiction future that I know we all want to be a part of. Thank you very much.